The Sports Source Saturday Kickoff is presented by Rusty Wallace Kia of Knoxville on Callahan Drive and by the Garza Law Firm.
And I'll tell you something else. Against Texas A&M, Jackson was kind of protecting those ribs a little bit. I think he's a little banged up, so we'll see how that goes too.
And there are some people that have reported on ESPN that they don't necessarily think that a 10-2 team can get in. So you certainly don't want to slip up here.
The committee doesn't care who you lose to. They care about who you beat.
They've got 10 sacks. They've got 6 interceptions. They've got a really good run defense that ranks 5th in the SEC.
And then it becomes the thing. It becomes Johnny Majors not being able to beat Florida. It becomes Alabama. Phil Fulmer not being able to beat Florida, and Josh Heupel's offense doesn't travel on the road.
Tennessee's number 4 in the country. They've looked around. They've had an opportunity to reflect on kind of where they stand, the progress they made, what all big games that lie in front of them. Don't do that because you're going to get burned. It happened to us in 1992.
And is this the James Pierce Jr. breakout game?
We ask that every week.
Does he get more than a half a sack?
Good Saturday morning. Welcome into the Sports Source Saturday Kickoff. I'm John Pennington, joined by VFL Kevin Simon, VFL Ollie Lane. We're here to get you ready for Tennessee and Arkansas this evening. And here is Rusty Wallace Kia on Callahan Drive. All week they've been taking supplies, like all the Rusty Wallace dealerships, up into East Tennessee in the area that's been devastated by flooding. They've been doing a good job there, so you can come by and say thank you to them, and also buy yourself a new Kia. They do great work here. I've bought 5 vehicles in a row here. You don't keep coming back for that unless you believe in the place. Just this past week, had new tires put on, their service center, perfect. Love everything about Rusty Wallace Kia on Callahan Drive. Get down here and tell Jake Bull that I sent you. All right, this segment of our show each week is just called What's the Story? It's basically what's the biggest storyline of the week. And I always start with Kevin Simon right here, former NFL scout, former Vol player, former Vol coach. You've done it all. Kevin, what's the biggest storyline of the week?
So with the Heupel-led team, the story is always the offense, right? Mm-hmm. Not so fast, my friend. The defense has been the story so far in this 2024 season, led by the defensive line. They've set the table for good things to come for the Vols. It's just been so difficult for them, for opponents, to get rolling with anything. You know, in the running game, passing game, we've been trampling the run on the way to the quarterback. That's a mantra of Rodney Garner. So will they continue to be able to do that against a Petrino-led passing game? Bobby Petrino is one of the best offensive minds in football, particularly college football. And then you have Sam Pittman, who, you know, if you heard about 12 sacks and some of those types of things, when you really watch the offensive line, they get on the right people. You know, some of it's Taylor Green holding the football a little bit, but then also Taylor Green, dynamic with his legs, will be able to contain them. You got the number 5 third down offense in Arkansas going against the number 1 third down defense. Now, 55% conversion for Arkansas, 17% conversion for Tennessee. So it'll be interesting to see the cat and mouse game between Banks and Petrino. Texas A&M did a really good job of breaking down protection. Nick Scranton was all over the quarterback. Never let Taylor Green get started. I think it's a good blueprint for Tim Banks to be able to lay out for this for tonight.
Well, it's the first time we've really seen a team. We've seen it the other way around, like Oklahoma and Brent Venables. That was a cat and mouse game with Josh Heupel. Yeah. Josh Heupel kind of kept his cards close to the vest and got out of there with the victory. We haven't really seen a team yet that had some dynamic play at quarterback that could really do much damage to you defensively. So there's going to be a cat and mouse game on the other side of the ball that's a little bit more interesting this week. That said, it's always interesting when this offense goes on the road, Ollie. We talked a couple weeks ago about the fact that Tennessee averages about 14 points per game more when they're at home than they do on the road. Look, you're going to drop when you go on the road, but 2 touchdowns, that's quite a bit.
Yeah, it's a lot.
So we talked about their issues with the silent count a little bit. You did say there's some truth to that. I look at it, and I just think that a lot of it goes back to when you're on the road and that communication isn't the same, it slows down your tempo.
Yeah.
That's the advantage of this Heupel offense. If you slow that down, you take away part of the advantage. Do you think, with John Campbell and Lance Hurd expected to be ready to go, who knows how long they'll play, John Campbell stays hurt, but they're supposed to start. Are you concerned about that tempo this week? Because once again, you're going into a hostile environment.
Always when going into a hostile environment, there is still concern about that tempo. I mean, obviously you're going to see if they have to go to silent count mechanics, it's going to slow that time down. From an average fan, you're not going to notice it a ton. But, I mean, you're going to see them from snapping the ball between that 34, 35 seconds. It's going to drop to about that 22, 23 seconds when they're getting the play off. And, I mean, that's 10 seconds that you're now giving that DC to really scheme up what you got out there in the look and the formation. I think with having everybody back at full strength, you're going to see the offense let loose a little bit more than they did against Oklahoma, hoping that those guys are going to stay at full strength for the entire game. But, at the end of the day, it's Arkansas still a loud place to play. Their 12th man's not shy. So, I mean, they're going to have to overcome that communication piece of it. And I think they showed signs of what it can be at Oklahoma, even with having Larry Johnston there, who's not used to that on-the-road communication. So I think they're going to be able to continue to improve on what the past history of Tennessee road games have been.
So hopefully there won't be too much who pig suing tonight to get in the way of things. All right, when we come back, well, actually, we got a little a scouting report before we go to break. So let me get to Jimmy Himes to give you a little breakdown of Arkansas first. Let's do that. Jimmy.
Thanks, John. Hey, here are 3 things to know about Arkansas. First off, their offense ranks 13th in the nation, but they've had 9 turnovers and they've actually fumbled 12 times, losing only 4. They're led by a very mobile quarterback, Talon Green, who's got 331 rushing yards. But as a passer, he's completed around 55%. He's only got 5 touchdowns against 5 interceptions. Their leading running back, Jay Jackson, he has got 101.8 yards per game. That's 3rd in the SEC. He's also 2nd in the SEC with 9 touchdowns. And as far as the offense on 3rd down conversions, they lead the SEC at over 55%. Secondly, the Arkansas defense. They've got 10 sacks. They've got 6 interceptions. They've got a really good run defense that ranks 5th in the SEC. Now, they're led by their all-SEC defensive end, Landon Jackson, who had 2 sacks last week against Texas A&M. Their leading tackler is a linebacker, Xavier Story. He's got 32 tackles, 4 tackles for loss. And one of their leading defensive backs is a former Vol, Danico Slaughter. He's 3rd on the team with 27 tackles. Now, even though these teams have only met 19 times, there have been several memorable moments. First off, in 1998, Tennessee's on its way to a national championship, and they needed a 4th quarter fumble by Arkansas to win that game. And the very next year, interestingly, Tennessee's in the national championship hunt. They're ranked 3rd in the country, and they lose to Arkansas in Fayetteville 28-24. Another note about this series, Arkansas has won 3 consecutive games against Tennessee in Fayetteville. John, back to you.
Thank you, Jimmy. We've got a packed show coming up for you today. We've got 16 people on this thing. We're going to bring you a wall of information. As a matter of fact, let's go ahead and hear from some of these people right now. And remember, this is just a taste of what's to come on the Sports Source Saturday Kickoff from Rusty Wallace Kia on Callahan Drive.
I'm Josh Ward, and we're going to examine tonight's game by the numbers.
I'm Ryan Callahan. I'll tell you about 3 recruits Tennessee is still fighting to hold on to, including one who was at Alabama last weekend.
I'm David Ubben, and I'll tell you how Georgia and Ole Miss's losses last week affected their path to the playoff.
And I'm Paige Dower, and we'll give you 3 reasons why tonight's game might be sneaky huge for the Tennessee Volunteers.
Hey folks, it's Jake from Rusty Wallace Kia of Knoxville. You hear lots of offers with insane prices, unbelievable trade-in promotions, and crazy gimmicks. But aren't you tired of all that noise? Look, at Rusty Wallace Kia of Knoxville, our message is simple. We'll beat any dealership's price on any new Kia, no matter who they are, no matter where they are, period. If you don't buy your new Kia on Callahan Drive, you'll pay too much. Rusty Wallace Kia of Knoxville, I-75 at Callahan Drive.
For 4 generations, A.G. Hines Company has been a pillar of the Knoxville community. And since Albert Hines Sr. opened our doors back in 1920, we've been supplying do-it-yourselfers with revolutionary products and tools. Manufactured stone is lighter, more cost-effective than traditional stone, featuring greater consistency of material and quicker installation times. Cutting-edge materials and tools at affordable prices. That's what we've provided for more than a century at A.G. Hines Company.
I was coming home and a lady hit me head on. It totaled my car, it fractured my right heel, and it bruised me up really badly. The Garza Law firm, they were very compassionate, but yet they were very detailed. They didn't let me down. They never stopped fighting. It helped me regain confidence in law firms. I would definitely recommend the Garza Law firm.
The Garza Law Firm. Let us help.
A day on the lake is more than just time on the water. It's a memory, a story that can last a lifetime. And no one makes memories like Madisonville Marine. Terrific prices, first-class customer service, and the area's biggest selection of boats, like G3 John boats. Gator Tough. These rugged boats are durable and dependable, season after season. Center or side console, storage boxes. Custom design your boat for your needs. Madisonville Marine. There's no better place to buy a boat.
Chris Smith was once let down by an insurance company, so he became an agent to make sure someone is fighting for you. Shop insurance now. See how Chris can give you peace of mind and save you some money. All insurance is not equal. Trust Chris Smith Insurance.
Every Sunday morning, The Sports Source brings you 90 minutes of honest, intelligent Vols coverage. More analysts, more topics, more fun. The Sports Source, Sundays at 11 on WATE TV6 and WATE.com.
The SEC once again will dominate the day here on Channel 6. First up, we get a top 25 matchup between Missouri and Texas A&M. Both teams are undefeated in conference play. A&M is the only 2-0 team in the league right now. Then at 3:30, it's a historic rivalry between Auburn and Georgia. Both teams looking to rebound after heartbreaking losses. The Bulldogs are heavily favored in this one. Then, of course, there is the nightcap. Tennessee travels to Fayetteville to face Arkansas. Kickoff is at 7:30 p.m. And remember to stick around after the game. We'll have a full recap of the contest, plus hear from Coach Heupel and the players. John.
Thank you, Reese. A lot of games there on WATE. If you plan on watching those or the Vols game tonight, you need to head to your local package store first in case you got people coming over. Pick up a 4-pack, 8-pack, or several of Freshie. It's organic tequila mixed with seltzer, 3 different flavors, all in a ready-to-drink can. They get great reviews online. You should check them out. Freshie. Just be sure if you're doing it that everybody's got a designated driver and you're over 21. Freshie. We keep it at the Bandit Lights Bar, and that's where we're going now. Paige Dower, Bob Hodge, Vince Ferrara, Dave Hooker for a segment we call 3 Reasons.
Thanks, John. Our task today is to talk about the 3 reasons why this actually might be a sneaky, huge game against Arkansas. I think we first have to start with playoff implications that come from this game, whether you win or lose. But specifically, if this is a game that they end up dropping, those playoff hopes are all but crushed. So I think just going up against Arkansas, Dave, you need to go and get this win to keep those playoff hopes alive.
Right, I agree, Paige. And at the very least, you would have to beat Alabama and Georgia later in the year, or at least one of those teams. And there are some people that have reported on ESPN that they don't necessarily think that a 10-2 team can get in. So you certainly don't want to slip up here, but definitely you would have to beat Georgia or Alabama if you lost to Arkansas, and perhaps both to get in the playoff, Vince.
I would think one of the two. I don't think your hopes would be dashed if you lose this game, but it makes it much more difficult, right? So you have to beat one of those teams, because we've all been talking about, well, if they go 10-2 and they just lose to Georgia and Alabama, they'll still get in. Well, I don't know. I mean, is their schedule, Bob, good enough to where they can do that?
You know, I think when you got a little bit of a question on their schedule a couple of weeks ago, I said 10-2's a lock. I'm not so sure about that anymore.
Yeah.
But I also think if you went to Arkansas and you lose this game, does your team have a sense of vulnerability now that they haven't had all season? I mean, you're rolling along, you go to Oklahoma, and even though the score didn't reflect it, you beat them soundly, Paige.
Yes.
But if you lose this game going forward against not just the Georgias and the Alabamas, but the Floridas and the Kentuckys, do you lose that sense of, yeah, we're one of the big dogs, we're one of the toughest teams in the country?
Oh, I think absolutely, because those elite teams don't lose to these kind of inferior opponents. That's why maybe that Ole Miss loss was a bit mystifying. It's a bit confusing. But you just look at, strength of record is probably the most important aspect of being a college football playoff team. A loss to Arkansas does not look as good as a loss to Georgia or to Alabama, and I think that's why it's even more crushing if this ends up being a loss to Arkansas Arkansas and why you can't allow this to kind of feel like that trap game going up against the Razorbacks. It's kind of maybe one of the more important wins to get.
You bring up a great point. I think you have to take care of business with this schedule. I mean, you can't play around and let a game like this slip up. I would have said the same thing about Oklahoma. This is not a schedule that is formidable enough where you can have a slip up and then benefit down the road unless you're able to beat Alabama and Georgia. And let's face it, if they don't beat Arkansas, who thinks they're going to do that?
Well, and then you even get into, if you lose this game, you have to beat Alabama and Georgia. Well, what if Georgia slips up and loses 3 games? Okay, suddenly that game doesn't look as big as it did. So I think the importance of not losing to Arkansas almost outweighs the importance of winning at Arkansas,
and I
if
think
that makes sense.
Yes, and I think a second reason why it's like a sneaky huge game is because it's a huge temperature check on this Tennessee offense. Will they travel well? How does the line hold up? What do our skill positions look like against that Razorback defense? Vince, I think just seeing how the offense travels will be key.
Well, I mean, you think about over the last couple of years, there have been some disappointments on the road against the toughest competition.
Yeah.
Obviously, South Carolina, Georgia
Florida.
a couple of years ago with Hendon Hooker, Florida. So there will still be those questions in true road environment. So yeah, the tempo is it the same? We didn't see really them be that prolific offensively, especially with the passing game at Oklahoma either. So I think those questions will still be there, Bob, if they don't look good offensively if they lose this game.
Well, if you go and the trend continues, then that starts following Josh Heupel. Because you did have the Florida loss last year to a team that at the end of the season, everybody said, well, Tennessee was obviously better. You know, the South Carolina thing, South Carolina got on a roll 2 years ago to end their season, but you were still a better team than them. So then it comes back to Josh Heupel, and then it becomes a thing. It becomes Johnny Majors not being able to beat Florida. It becomes Alabama. Phil Fulmer not being able to beat Florida, and Josh Heupel offense doesn't travel on the road.
Especially against an opponent that's not very good in pass coverage. And really Tennessee should be able to throw for a bunch of yards against these guys. And if they don't, I think you worry about the offense traveling, and maybe you're worried that we overhype Nico a little bit.
There'll be some of that, but then how legitimate is that? Because it's happened with Joe Milton. It happened with Hendon Hooker as well, where they struggled in games and having this offense travel. So, yeah, there'll be the Nico questions page, but I don't think it'll be fair because it'll be multiple quarterbacks.
And I think for our final reason, we've got about a minute to go. If they get a win here, I think that really propels the status of this program with all of the concerns that we mentioned. They get a win there, and I think just the way that the program feels is a lock.
Well, I think if you lose this game, it's almost like air coming out of a balloon. You started out at number 15. You've climbed to number 4. Now, you may argue, okay, they deserve to be at number 4. Or maybe, okay, they're a little bit too high.
Yeah.
But it's a big thing that Tennessee now is being talked about with the elites of college football, with Alabama and Georgia and Ohio State and Texas. So I just think that you've got more on the line here than just a game against a mediocre SEC team.
Yeah. And Dave, you know the temperature of the fans. Fans are not, they have no comprehension that they could possibly lose this game. So it will hit them hard.
Agreed. And I will say this, too, along what you said, Paige. Not only win, but look good offensively. Let's face it, the bar is pretty high under Josh Heupel to look good offensively. So even though it may be able to win games, I don't think that Tennessee fans want to see that defensive-minded sort of team that they saw at Oklahoma.
Yeah, absolutely. I think those are 3 great reasons. Coming back from break, we'll head over to John, where Kevin, and Ollie are all talking about Tennessee's ramping up of their passing game come October.
Hey folks, it's Jake from Rusty Wallace Key of Knoxville. You hear lots of offers with insane prices, unbelievable trade-in promotions, and crazy gimmicks. But aren't you tired of all that noise? Look, at Rusty Wallace Kia of Knoxville, our message is simple. We'll beat any dealership's price on any new Kia, no matter who they are, no matter where they are, period. If you don't buy your new Kia on Callahan Drive, you'll pay too much. Rusty Wallace Kia of Knoxville, I-75 at Callahan Drive.
Safety Systems, East Tennessee's top provider of home automation, security, and life safety systems.
Home and commercial security.
Camera surveillance systems specifically designed for your property. Professional monitoring, complete with emergency and after-hours response and repair. Burglar alarms for all access points. Upgrade your home or business with a single phone call to Safety Systems, East Tennessee's leader in home and commercial security systems for more than 20 years.
Whether you're watching the big game or your favorite movie, Games and Things is your ticket to the best seat in the house. It's time to get rid of that old, worn-out recliner and replace it with home theater seating from Games and Things. We offer the largest selection of quality seats at the best price in East Tennessee. With an endless variety of styles, configurations, and options, you are sure to find that perfect seat. Stop by Games and Things to upgrade your seats today at the corner of Kingston Pike and Lovell Road. Online at ourgameroom.com. Games and Things, 'cause life should be fun.
From family heirlooms to sports memorabilia, protect and showcase your treasures with custom frames and shadow boxes, each with a lifetime guarantee. Express Frame in the Common Shopping Center on North Peters Road.
So many people get their insurance through an app these days, but are you getting the best deal, the coverage you need? And when you really need that coverage, who's fighting for you? All insurance is not equal. Trust Chris Smith Insurance.
3 recruits to watch for Tennessee coming off its open date last week. We're looking at some players in Tennessee's class that the Vols are still having to play defense on a little bit in the aftermath of 4-star offensive lineman Douglas Utu flipping to Oregon last week. And there are still a few other players who are being pursued by other teams. We'll start with 4-star linebacker Jaden Harmon, a big-time player that Tennessee flipped from Alabama in August. And he just recently went back to Alabama last weekend, actually, for the Crimson Tide's game against Georgia. So Alabama definitely still involved there despite his decision to flip from the Crimson Tide to Tennessee. Tennessee still appears to be in good shape right now, but Alabama obviously not giving up, and that visit last weekend shows they're still in the picture. 4-star linebacker Christian Gass of the Atlanta area, been committed to Tennessee since back in July when he picked the Vols over Georgia, but he also attended a game at Georgia earlier this season. The Bulldogs are still involved there, haven't given up on him and plan to continue pursuing him. There's already been some talk of Christian Gass potentially going back to another game at Georgia, maybe when Tennessee plays against the Bulldogs, but either way, Georgia's still in the picture there, even though Gass has indicated he's pretty firmly committed to the Vols at this point. And then 4-star wide receiver Travis Smith Jr., also of the Atlanta area. Auburn once appeared to be in position to get him on campus for an unofficial visit back in early September. That visit ended up not happening. He's talked pretty highly about Tennessee since then, has been back to Knoxville for 1 game already this season. So Tennessee is probably in good shape at the moment, but Auburn and obviously some other teams still in the picture there. Auburn probably the main threat with Georgia also staying in contact with him. John, back to you.
Thank you, Ryan. This is a segment we call Checking the List here at Rusty Wallace Kia on Callahan Drive. There's only one thing the Vols really need to check off their list. We've seen the defense look good. We've seen the run game look good. You've seen the pass game look good, but it's looked good against Chattanooga and Kent State. It hasn't really been up to the usual snuff against the Power 5 guys they played. In fact, I got some numbers here. You've got against their 2 Power 5 foes, NC State and Oklahoma, they've averaged 202 passing yards per game. Last year, they averaged 235. 2 years ago with Hendon Hooker, they averaged 295. So you need to crank that thing up here. They have clearly kept Nico in a little bit of bubble wrap. Not in a bad way. I mean, if you go back and look at 1998 stats, T. Martin, his season, they cranked up. They gave him a little bit more and more and more. So I understand that you want to break him in gently here. Makes sense. But at this point, the coaches, you're getting into October. You're going to need a pass game to go with that run game. And I know you've got some issues with the receiving core that you bring up every week. Offensive line has some question marks. First of all, are the coaches going to open it up this week? You said in the first segment you thought they would. They're going to open it up this week? And do you trust this offense can open it up tonight at Arkansas?
Yeah, I do feel like they're going to open it up a little bit more. Obviously, teams across the country, you're going to remember what they do in October. So it's important to make a mark on what every game is going to be for this month because it sets up the end of your season into the postseason. I think that they need to start putting a little bit more on Nico. Obviously, you didn't want to put a ton on him at first, get him overstressed, overthinking out there. But as he's progressed and shows promise in every single game that he can do what's being asked of him now, well, now it's time to let's start asking him a little bit more, especially before we start getting into these bigger and bigger games coming on down the line.
You got confidence that they will, and you got confidence that they can?
Yeah, I definitely think that they will as we go here. One, keeping the tackles healthy. It's been a self-preservation thing. Let's keep Nico upright. But then, two, if you can't throw the ball on Arkansas's DBs, then you're going to have a hard time as we get down the slate because they're in the bottom half of the SEC.
14th, I think, out of 16 teams.
There you go. Hey, even worse.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so in terms of, like, listen to Kelsey Pope on Vol calls earlier this week. You know, he talked about the maturation of Brew, maturation of Brew when he knew he was going to be healthy late in camp. Talked about the maturation of Squirrel White, that he's been coming into his own. I think it's only a matter of time before he breaks out and has a game. Dante Thornton has more confidence this year than what he did last year. Listen, guys, I can't wait to see it because for this offense to really cook, you got to have the receivers playing at a high level.
Yeah, absolutely. You need the big game part of it. One thing we've talked about quite a bit the last couple of weeks since Oklahoma has been the protection of Nico. We went into the season, everyone was saying that, well, it's either secondary or offensive line is your biggest question mark. People, and you may see the secondary tested tonight, we'll talk about that a little later, but everybody now seems to be focused on, nope, it's the offensive line. That's your question. Granted, you were without two of your tackles at Oklahoma. Didn't look great. Nico was fumbling the ball, so you put the brakes on there a little bit on your offense. Ollie, in terms of the offensive line helping Nico, again, talked about it all week. There are ways that a young quarterback can help his offensive line too. And when you've got a young guy that's growing, he may not be able to pick up the blitz like a veteran could. He may not have the clock in his head. I mean, Nico's probably still in high school time a little bit. They can't get to me. Oh, they're here. So you got to get the clock in his head right. Just if your tackles are getting beat, adjust the depth in the pocket. Those kinds of things. As a former offensive lineman, talk to me about the issues you have as an offensive lineman dealing with a young quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, there's some growing pains in there. I think the number one rule for any young quarterback going into a veteran offensive line or any offensive line, do not think you have time because you don't have time. You are on a short clock to get it out there. And obviously it's the offensive line job to give him as much time as possible. But I mean, as a young quarterback, you got to think you got no time. I think it's going to help you out more in the long run. And two, just build that early relationship with your offensive line, especially as a young quarterback. That's going to make them want to do those out-of-the-way extra efforts for plays and stuff like that to protect you. And not saying that they wouldn't in general, but it brings more to that. And then, I mean, too, having a young quarterback, it's important for him to have a relationship with his center. Obviously, at UT, having a guy like Cooper Mays, he knows everything that Nico needs to know. So those two guys, I'm sure they have already, but get together and build that relationship. That's going to go a long way because the center is your quarterback of your offensive line. They tell everybody else what to do from the quarterback. So, I mean, having that relationship there and strong is going to build a better fostering environment to get a full potential quarterback. So,
and just to piggyback on that, when you look on the other side, Addison Nichols, Taylor Green, you don't have time. Like letting a young quarterback know, like you don't have time. That's the thing that Taylor Green is going to have to master. He improved every single week. Kind of came to a screeching halt against Texas A&M. Now a lot of that has to do with Texas A&M. They're really good up front, but the more time that he understands the ball has to get off, because a lot of sacks might be a 4 problem coming off. You know as well as I do, that's on the quarterback. You got to get the ball out of your hands. So it'll be interesting to see if he can keep it going. When you look at Taylor Green from his best plays, he looks like a first overall pick. His worst plays look like, why is this guy on the field? So it'll be interesting to see what version we see against Taylor Green. For Tim Banks and that defensive staff, it keeps you up at night knowing that there's a guy that can really win the game with his legs at times.
Good information, guys. Always appreciate it. When we come back, let's go and we're down to the wise guys. They'll be talking all kinds of over-unders and either-ors. They're going to break down the game by the numbers next on the Sports Source Saturday Kickoff.
A day on the lake is more than just time on the water. It's a memory, a story that can last a lifetime. And no one makes memories like Madisonville Marine. Terrific prices, first-class customer service, and the area's biggest selection of boats, like Hurricane deck boats. Perfecting fun on the water for more than 45 years with innovative and incredibly versatile designs. Experience freedom, laughter, and adventure on the water with Hurricane. Madisonville Marine. There's no better place to buy a boat.
I see Marco's role in the community as somebody that people can look up to.
Marcos Garza is very thoughtful. He pays attention to the needs of the people in the community.
He's somebody that's very unselfish, somebody that's going to always be there.
Marcos Garza will work as hard as he can to get the best results for you.
In the future, no matter where I'm playing, no matter what the team I'm playing for, I'll always be on Garza's team.
The Garza Law Firm is Mama Zizi approved.
The Garza Law Firm. Let us help.
Hey folks, it's Jake from Rusty Wallace Key of Knoxville. You hear lots of offers with insane prices, unbelievable trade-in promotions, and crazy gimmicks. But aren't you tired of all that noise? Look, at Rusty Wallace Key of Knoxville, our message is simple. We'll beat any dealership's price on any new Kia, no matter who they are, no matter where they are, period. If you don't buy your new Kia on Callahan Drive, you'll pay too much. Rusty Wallace Key of Knoxville, I-75 at Callahan Drive.
Georgia and Ole Miss had 2 losses this weekend that reshaped the SEC's playoff picture. But what does that mean? For Georgia, probably not that much. They're still in my definitely in category despite the loss in the Titanic showdown to Alabama. The thing is, they've got some tough games ahead. Ole Miss, Texas, Tennessee. If they don't win at least 2 of those, they're probably going to be very, very nervous on Selection Sunday. With Ole Miss, they lose to Kentucky. The good news is for them, the committee doesn't care who you lose to. They care about who you beat. And Ole Miss still has a lot of opportunities. They still have games ahead against Georgia, against Oklahoma, against LSU. They can win those games and win their way back into the playoff field. The only question is, when you lose to Kentucky, it broaches the question of, well, are you a team that's good enough to win those games? Whether they are or not, Ole Miss is going to have a chance to prove that on the field in the weeks to come.
Thank you, David. Hey, if you're watching the game tonight, just imagine how much nicer it would be if you were sitting there in a brand new home theater seat from Games and Things. Fantastic. I got my home theater seats at Games and Things. They have a bigger selection than anybody in town. You can go down there and check them all out at their showroom, or you can visit them online at ourgameroom.com. They are the world's best in terms of home theater seating. Games and Things. And now, just to say it one more time, let's go to the Games and Things arena, where we're joined by Tyler Ivins, Will West, Chuck Cavaleris, and Josh Ward for a segment we call The Wise Guys.
Thanks, Sean. All right, guys, we have 6 questions to cover here this segment and about 6 minutes to cover. So we'll go tempo here. I'll grab the first question. Dylan Sampson for Tennessee has 10 rushing touchdowns this season. Jaquindon Jackson for Arkansas has 9. So the question here, who has more rushing touchdowns tonight?
I'm going to lean Dylan on this one. Similar running styles are clearly going to be the highlights of the game. I just trust Tennessee's front 7 a touch more than I do Arkansas, so King reigns supreme.
Who gets in the red zone more often? Doesn't that really what it comes down to get more chances? And I'll tell you something else. Against Texas A&M, Jackson was kind of protecting those ribs a little bit. I think he's a little banged up, so we'll see how that goes too.
I think Dylan Sampson gets a touchdown. I think Jackson doesn't. His numbers are trending down. Tennessee's front 7's probably the best he's faced all year. Give me Sampson.
Yeah, I also think I'm riding Sampson to a record-breaking season, so he needs to get going here, keep the pace. So Nico could score in the red zone. Bishop, receivers could get some plays here, but I'll take Sampson, so it's a sweep.
All right, gentlemen, as a starter versus 3 Power 4 opponents, Nico's averaged $185 through the air per game. How about an over-under of 215.5 tonight, Chuck Cavaleris?
Okay, good number. I'm going to take over. The offensive line has to hold up, has to protect him. The tackles have to be a big part of that.
Yeah, I'm going to take over as well. At some point, you're going to have to throw the ball a 24th time against a power conference opponent. I think it's today.
I think Nico hits at least one bomb down the field. Maybe Brazel grabs another one, a couple of catch and runs. So, yeah, I think they open it up. I think he gets going. I don't think he's concerned about the talk of the last couple of weeks. But he knows that there's more to be had. I think he'll get some tonight.
I think because the defense at Arkansas is going to be centered on trying to slow down Dylan Sampson, more opportunities, that opening of the pass game we've been asking for, I think that's going to end up coming into roost today.
Yeah, good point.
All right, grab one.
All right. Arkansas has 29 plays of 20-plus yards. Tennessee has 25. Who has more 20-plus yard plays tonight?
I think it's going to be Tennessee. I think it's by a country mile. I think at some point people are going to start trying to take away the run for Tennessee, right? And that's going to open up the passing game. So I think Tennessee's going to have more 20-plus yard plays.
Arkansas has played some quality defenses, but not as much as Tennessee is going to offer. So I'll say Tennessee. It's a big play. I just mentioned the passing game. I'll take Tennessee over Arkansas on this one. Tyler, you got to look.
Arkansas. I'm taking Arkansas because they got to play catch-up in this game late. Total of 59. Bigger plays open up, prevent that secondary gets tested.
No, I'm going with the Vols, and I don't think it's going to be that close on that.
Okay. I feel you there. Taylor Green averaging 247.5 passing yards a game. Over under 247.5 passing yards for Taylor Green tonight.
Well, Tyler has me thinking there because he could add some yardage that doesn't really count for how the game is going to go, but I'll still say under. I'll say under the number.
Because of what I just said 30 seconds ago.
Over.
North, and I think that number might be the closest number we've had throughout the entire segment.
Blake Bortles' time, he's going to have garbage time.
Yeah.
I tell you what, I think this is who Tennessee's defense really has to get after. I mean, he plays quarterback. He ought to play for Western Union because he telegraphs every throw. Tennessee needs to get after it. That should go under.
Maybe over if you add the return yardage for Tennessee's interceptions.
No, that's the key. He's going to throw a lot of picks. He's going to screw up. Tennessee's going to shut him down.
I think he's going to be running for his life.
Give me the under.
Okay. A little split there. That's good. Arkansas averages 2 sacks per game this season, guys. Tennessee averages 1.7 sacks per game, just under 2. Who has more sacks tonight?
Tennessee. Taylor Green, because he likes to use his legs, he's going to run into a sack or two more than he wants to. I think this is also another close number. So far, so good. I'll lean Tennessee getting to Taylor Green more than the opposite.
Tennessee, and is this the James Pierce Jr. breakout game?
We ask that every week.
Does he get more than a half a sack? I mean, that's what a lot. It doesn't have to just be him, but you got to get pressure and you got to get hits.
Can you believe we're asking that question?
I know. Give me Arkansas. I think Nico holds the ball a little too long sometimes. Tennessee's offensive line more likely to have breakdowns, so give me Arkansas with more sacks.
Tackle's still a question going into this game. It's probably going to be every week. How long can John Campbell Jr. play for 4 quarters? I will say Arkansas, but part of it is I'm high on Nico tonight. So if he's going to be more involved in what they're doing in the offense, that's more opportunities for Arkansas. So I'll say Arkansas edges out Tennessee.
Gentlemen, Arkansas over under 2.5 offensive touchdowns tonight. I will tell you right now in Vegas, their team total is sitting at 17.5.
Yeah. So that's 2.5.
Well, no, touchdowns. That's 2 touchdowns and a field goal. So that's the hang-up.
Right.
Yeah, so
I'm going to take over. I'm going to take over that in 4-quarter game.
Okay.
So I think there's going to be some scoring, especially in the second half.
I have them scoring 13, so I'm going to take not just under, but way
shout out to the old Sports 180 days, but we would call it like Sports 90 or Sports 0, never know what to say. I also am going to have Tennessee holding Arkansas to 13 points, a couple of field goals in the red zone, so I'm going to go over that number. Remember, going into the Oklahoma game, we were talking, is Tennessee going to give up a touchdown? Because they hadn't done it in 4 straight games. So I'll say under 2.5 touchdowns for Arkansas.
2 touchdowns, 2 field goals, 20 under.
Why do you hate the Vols?
That keeps it under. Under 2.5 offensive touchdowns.
Did Tyler hedge along the way here?
I felt like you did.
Yeah,
absolutely did.
Because they have to get back in the game. I didn't say it was going to be 41-10 when they get the ball in the 4th quarter.
Okay, so a partial jinx of Tennessee, but Tyler may be holding off on the jinx. Some numbers for Arkansas.
A partial
accurate in the end. That is a look at Tennessee and Arkansas from a prop standpoint. When we come back, a warning from a former Vol captain, plus a breakdown of the Vols' game plan when we come back.
Whether you're watching the big game or your favorite movie, Games and Things is your ticket to the best seat in the house. It's time to get rid of that old, worn-out recliner and replace it with home theater seating from Games and Things. We offer the largest selection of quality seats at the best price in East Tennessee. With an endless variety of styles, configurations, and options, you are sure to find that perfect seat. Stop by Games and Things to upgrade your seats today at the corner of Kingston Pike and Lovell Road. Online at ourgameroom.com. Games and Things, 'cause life should be fun.
Safety Systems, East Tennessee's top provider of home automation, security, and life safety systems.
Home automation.
Our expert technicians can turn your home into a smart home, allowing you to control and monitor everything from lighting and climate to entertainment systems, security systems, and even appliances, all from your phone or tablet. Upgrade your home with a single phone call to Safety Systems, East Tennessee's leader in home automation for more than 20 years.
Chris Smith was once let down by an insurance company, so he became an agent to make sure someone is fighting for you. Shop insurance now. See how Chris can give you peace of mind and save you some money. All insurance is not equal. Trust Chris Smith Insurance.
From works of art to family photos, enhance the beauty and protect your memories with custom frames, museum-quality glass, and guaranteed craftsmanship. Express Frame in the Common Shopping Center on North Peters Road.
Hey folks, it's Jake from Rusty Wallace Kia of Knoxville. You hear lots of offers with insane prices, unbelievable trade-in promotions, and crazy gimmicks. But aren't you tired of all that noise? Look, at Rusty Wallace Kia of Knoxville, our message is simple. We'll beat any dealership's price on any new Kia, no matter who they are, no matter where they are, period. If you don't buy your new Kia on Callahan Drive, you'll pay too much. Rusty Wallace Kia of Knoxville, I-75 at Callahan Drive.
Captain's Corner this week. I'm always focusing as a captain what you should be doing, how you should direct the team. This week I'm going to tell you what not to do, and I'm going to tell you because it's a first-hand experience. Tennessee's number 4 in the country. They've looked around. They've had an opportunity to reflect on kind of where they stand, the progress they made, what all big games that lie in front of them. Don't do that because you're going to get burned. It happened to us in 1992. Team rolls into town that happened to be Arkansas. That was 3-7 that year. They had lost to Citadel at the beginning of the season, and we overlooked them. We looked ahead to the next week, which was Alabama. Had we beaten Arkansas, it would have been two teams that are ranked in the top 5 against each other, and it would have had massive implications as far as SEC standings, national standings, and just overall exposure of being able to play in that level of a game. But we looked past Arkansas and got burned. And it also cost us an opportunity to play in the first ever Southeastern Conference Championship game. Don't look past Arkansas this year because they will burn you. But story learned, don't look past anybody, week by week, so you can win, and each game will be bigger than the next. John, back to you.
Thanks to former Vol captain, former All-SEC guard Mike Stoll right there. Back at Rusty Wallace Kia with Ollie Lane, Kevin Simon. This is a segment of the show brought to you by the Garza Law Firm. Folks, I look on television, I see all kinds of ads for attorneys, and most of them are from East Tennessee. They're not local. They try to convince you they're local, which, first of all, that would make me wonder about their credibility if I ever called them. If you're trying to tell me you're from here and you're not. Marcos Garza and the Garza Law Firm are here. You need an attorney in East Tennessee, that's who you call. Ask around, you'll hear nothing but good things. The Garza Law Firm. All right, this segment of our program is called What's the Game Plan? When we talk about, wait for it, the game plan. So, specifically, I want to ask, as Jimmy broke down earlier, you've got a quarterback in Taylon Green who can make plays with his legs, can make plays with his arm. He's kind of erratic. He may throw one to you just as likely as he may throw one to them. But unlike Grayson McCall, unlike the mess you saw at Oklahoma, this is a guy who can hit you over the top. So my question is, do you have concerns about trying to defend a true dual threat quarterback? Not just a legs guy, but a true dual threat quarterback.
It's always a concern because whether they're moving the pocket for him or whether he's getting on the run himself, it's causing our DBs to have to cover for 5, 6, 7, 8 seconds at times. There's a play in the Auburn game where he rolls out to his right or to his left, uncorks the ball 60 yards for a big touchdown. So, it's always a concern because we say plaster. Plaster means plaster to your guy. And like Tesla. So the big touchdown that he threw to Tesla last week against Texas A&M was a deal where he gets flushed out the pocket. Tesla's running the seam route, sees him. The receivers are taught, all right, hey, you got to move with the quarterback. He moves to run a corner, moving with the quarterback, dime, touchdown, Hogs. So it's always a concern. It's going to test the discipline of your secondary.
Yeah, no doubt. And I mean, just his versatility that he brings to the table every game is going to challenge us. But I think when you pair what he does with poor offensive line play, it's going to roll in our favor. I mean, obviously, I think our D-line is going to take advantage of their offensive line. And I mean, with him wanting to sit back there, kind of develop some things, let people get deep so he can air it out, that's not going to work out too great for him in this game, I don't think.
Let me ask you about the secondary. I think going into the season, as I said earlier in the show, that was a question marks area. We've seen them, they're more athletic, tackle better, closing speed is fantastic. But have we seen them challenged in terms of sticking with guys when the quarterback can hit them? What's your confidence level in these guys as cover DBs right now?
It still remains to be seen. I don't think that this is the game where they're really going to get tested.
It's the best one that you've seen so far, though. Yeah,
best one that we've seen so far.
Alabama's going to be a different beast.
We've all seen Ryan Williams. Did you know he's 17 years old? We've all seen him. Obviously, he's going to be the ultimate test because, I mean, he looks like if he's not, he's one of the top 5 wide receivers in the country.
Yeah.
But look, hey, you got to get there first. This is going to be a test. The defensive line, like Ali alluded to, is going to help with that. But sometimes with a guy was late, we saw Jalen Milroe, against Georgia and what he was able to do with his legs. And some of the QB runs, they weren't able to get going against Texas A&M. Move the pocket, they didn't do as much. I think Bob Petrino was going to look at that game plan, do it a little different. But hopefully our defensive line can keep them contained. I know Rodney Gardner and Tim Banks will have a plan to try to keep the guy contained. But our DBs will definitely have to be challenged in the deep area of the field at some point in time during the game.
There are a lot of people that have wondered, you went into the season and you had everybody saying James Pierce was going to be the #1 pick in the draft next year. You had a lot of, which I could still see, okay? Because they're going to be looking at the physical skills. But there were a lot of people saying #1 player in college football. That's a different thing to me because that's Jadeveon Clowney. You're going to be the #1 player in college football as a defensive end, you better be Jadeveon Clowney. He's played well. Everyone who watches him on tape says he's played well. He's almost getting home time after time after time. But he hasn't had a breakout game yet. Thoughts on why? Is it just hadn't happened yet? Or is there anything in his game? Is it last year he benefited from Tyler Barron being on the other side, and now he's getting more attention? Is there any reason for the fact that we're talking about him getting his first full sack and we're going into game 5?
He has a positive matchup against the left tackle because the left tackle, each struggles to deal with speed. James, in terms of working his feet, hips, and arms in unison to win quick, there's a lull there, right? Just having a signature rush, a signature move. Usually a guy that's going to be the #1 pick, he's going to be cleaner and more polished in terms of his skill set than that. That doesn't mean that he's not going to go in the first round. He definitely will because he has the traits to. But I think just in terms of him understanding how to attack the weakness of the set consistently and winning consistently, he hasn't shown a lot of clean rushes. To me, it's more so him being late to get to a move.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think they are showing him a lot more attention too. I mean, if you look back at the film, there's not a lot of opportunities for him to be on that one-on-one island with the tackle. They're bringing someone else over there to help him. And I mean, I think it shows a lot last year when you had Tyler Barron in there. That was the guy that was getting the attention, freed it up for him to have the career year that he did. So now it's kind of he's got to get used to that. Well, now I'm going to face 2 guys most of the time. How can I defeat the double team successfully? So I think he needs to, like you said, get that lull out and learn how to win quicker than wait so long until that double team just locks him up.
Excellent work. Excellent work. When we come back, it's prediction time. You're going to hear picks from 16 people. Come on back on the Sports Source Saturday Kickoff.
For 4 generations, A.G. Hines Company has been a pillar of the Knoxville community. And since Albert Heinz Sr. opened our doors back in 1920, we've been supplying do-it-yourselfers with revolutionary products and tools. With Nudura insulated concrete forms, your project will be both rock solid and more energy efficient than steel or wood structures. Cutting-edge materials and tools at affordable prices. That's what we've provided for more than a century at A.G. Heinz Company.
A day on the lake is more than just time on the water. It's a memory, a story that can last a lifetime. And no one makes memories like Madisonville Marine. Terrific prices, first-class customer service, and the area's biggest selection of boats, like Skeeter bass boats. For more than 75 years, generations of anglers have trusted Skeeter, the best engineered boats on the water. Ensure a smooth, dry, safe trip to your favorite fishing hole. Madisonville Marine. There's no better place to buy a boat.
Hey folks, it's Jake from Rusty Wallace Kia of Knoxville. You hear lots of offers with insane prices, unbelievable trade-in promotions, and crazy gimmicks. But aren't you tired of all that noise? Look, at Rusty Wallace Kia of Knoxville, our message is simple. We'll beat any dealership's price on any new Kia, no matter who they are, no matter where they are, period. If you don't buy your new Kia on Callahan Drive, you'll pay too much. Rusty Wallace Kia of Knoxville, I-75 at Callahan Drive.
From family heirlooms to sports memorabilia, protect and showcase your treasures with custom frames and shadow boxes, each with a lifetime guarantee. Express Frame in the Common Shopping Center on North Peters Road.
Every Sunday morning, The Sports Source brings you 90 minutes of honest, intelligent Vols coverage. More analysts, more topics, more fun. The Sports Source, Sundays at 11 on WATE TV6 and WATE.com.
Welcome back to the Sports Source Saturday Kickoff. We're at Rusty Wallace Kia on Callahan Drive. This segment, our prediction segment, brought to you by Chris Smith Insurance. I use Chris because he's a double agent, meaning he's a farmer's agent. He brings you all those great farmers' policies. But if one of those doesn't fit you, if it's not how you want to protect your family, if it's not how you want to protect your property, if you don't fit their plans, he's got other plans he can bring you because he's also an independent agent. It's a two-for deal when you go with Chris Smith Insurance. That's why I use him. That's why you should too. This segment we call Who, How, and Why. Let's get to our picks.
This week, give me Tennessee 41, Arkansas 24. I'll be in the building, and Arkansas is a much improved offensive team, but defensively doesn't have the manpower or the schematics to slow down this Tennessee offense that's got weapons all over the place, an offensive line that's much improved. If they can be healthy and play well, Tennessee goes to Fayetteville and gets the job done.
This is the game that worries me the most, with it being smushed between a bye and Florida. I still think the Vols win it 34-27, but the Razorbacks keep it close. Arkansas head coach Sam Pittman says that the Razorbacks have a quarterback who is not confident. Hopefully the Vols defensive line can take advantage of that.
I'm taking Tennessee in this matchup. I think they'll stay undefeated. The final score probably around 30-10 as the final score Tennessee's favor. I'm a little worried about that offensive line, especially when you look at Arkansas's edge rushers, especially Landon Jackson. I think he might have a decent game, but I still think Tennessee pulls out the win.
I'm going to go Tennessee 34-17. I think that Arkansas is going to be a tough place to play. We talked about it earlier. You've got problems with this offense traveling on the road. So I think going to Fayetteville will test them a little bit, but I think they should be that much better than Arkansas.
I'm going to go Tennessee as well, 31-13. I think the line of scrimmage is going to be hugely in Tennessee's favor. Now, yes, if they don't have both tackles, then that's a game changer. But until that happens, I'm going to assume Tennessee is going to be at full strength or close to it, and then their offensive line, especially the interiors, have a tough time protecting. I like Tennessee's D-line to win 31-13.
I'm going to assume that tackles are healthy, and they're healthy throughout the game. That would totally change my prediction because we saw how thin they were against Oklahoma. So I think Arkansas is ripe for the picking when it comes to throwing the football. I think as long as the tackles are healthy, they'll be able to protect Nico, and I think Tennessee wins 42-13.
I don't think this will be an easy win for Tennessee. I've got the Vols 31-20. I think the defense will travel. I think they'll play very well like they did at Oklahoma, but they will probably give up a couple of plays to Taylor Green. But I also think Tennessee's run game will show up and do a good job against the Razorbacks.
All right, score prediction for this week. I have severe PTSD from the situation of Arkansas and Tennessee. They've mucked things up for us a lot of the times. I'm worried about it. My score, Arkansas 27, Tennessee 24.
I'm taking Tennessee 34-20 over Arkansas. This is a game I think the Vols will have a little bit more trouble than they did against Oklahoma in some ways. The offensive line, a bit of a concern going into this game, but I still think Tennessee makes more plays offensively, finds a way to overcome a pretty feisty Arkansas team. And on defense, Tennessee, again, will control the line of scrimmage. Maybe not holding Arkansas out of the end zone, but making enough stops to get the win.
All right, guys, prediction time. I'll take Tennessee to beat Arkansas. I'm going to say Tennessee wins 38-13. I think the defense just causes problems for Green at quarterback, and the Vols offense gets things rolling for 4 quarters. I'll take Tennessee big.
You do this every week. We have the exact same Tennessee number every week. 38-20. Ooh, total in the game tonight's 58.5. That's 58 points.
I've got it 34-10. And I think that's a pretty good number for this game. Tennessee coming off an open day. Josh Heupel is 3-0 after open days. I like that. I like them tonight.
Yeah, I'll take Tennessee to win 37-13, so I'm pretty similar. I just think there'll be more field goals than touchdowns in that scenario. Arkansas is -5 their first 2 SEC games in the turnover battle. I think they'll be -2, -3 tonight, and that easily leads to a Tennessee win. But still a pretty conservative game plan because Heupel can do that.
All right, time for our picks. I think Tennessee's defense is going to handle Arkansas. I just can't see Arkansas putting tons on them. At the same time, my questions about that offense, I keep going back to what's it going to look like on the road. They haven't really put the ball in Nico's hands in a situation where, kid, you got to go win it for us yet. I think he's been really good. He's done everything I thought he would do to this point. I've been very pleased with it. Now it's time to take the next step. I want to see if he can. So my concern and my feeling about why this is going to be a close game is more about the offense and the offensive line. We'll see if they prove me wrong. I'll take the Vols 30-20 tonight. A little bit of a close-fought game. Kevin, what are you doing?
Yeah, so I'm looking. So 34-17, Vols. Just feel like Taylor Green's going to be able to get a little something going, but I think the mistakes continue, and we come out with the big victory on the road.
Yeah, no, I'm taking the Vols 38-14. I think the offense is going to come out a little hotter than they were in Oklahoma, hit some plays early. I think Arkansas will answer, but they won't be able to answer the full call to the game, and eventually just end up giving it away to us.
The full call to the Hogs.
Yeah.
The one guy we haven't talked about today is Dylan Sampson, and it's kind of silly because he's the best player right now. I mean, there's talk about Nico as a Heisman candidate. He's still top 5 in the Heisman odds. If you've got somebody that's a Heisman candidate right now on this team, it's Dylan Sampson. He is on pace at the moment to rush for 1,500 yards and set the single-season rushing record for touchdowns. It's going to be interesting. He's going against another good running back tonight, one of the other best backs in the league.
Yeah.
But I think Tennessee got the advantage there, both your defensive line versus their back, and I think Dylan Sampson has proven that even if there's not a big hole there, he can get you something.
Yeah, no doubt. As good as Jackson's been for Arkansas, and then obviously Taylor Green has kind of packaged off that, what Dylan Sampson's doing with his running game, and don't forget about Sean Bishop and what he's added to it. He's added a grit and a toughness, along with our tight ends. Yeah, I'm in full agreement with you. Dylan Sampson has been the best player on the field more times than not so far this season.
10 seconds on your former teammate Dylan Sampson.
Yeah, I mean, just to add to it, I mean, he's a great leader too. His character speaks for it, and his performance on the field is a direct reflection of that.
Excellent. Ollie Lane, Kevin Simon, always appreciate you coming over here and doing this. Thank you very much. Thanks to Rusty Wallace Kia for helping us out. Get out there and see them this week. You'll be happy that you did. They are great in terms of what they do with their deals and also their cars. They'll beat any Kia deal in America. How's that for a promise? Rusty Wallace Kia on Callahan Drive. We'll see you tomorrow morning. We're going to break down the Tennessee-Arkansas game tonight. We're going to break that down in the morning for 90 minutes. We'll have the full crew there for the Sports Source. See you then. Enjoy the game tonight.
The Sports Source Saturday Kickoff is presented by Rusty Wallace Kia of Knoxville on Callahan Drive and by the Garza Law Firm.